Rabbi, so let's make a start. We're up to Yerushalmi Peah. We're up to the 6th parak, which is on Daf Mem Testament Aleph. Old Vilna pages, it's page 28. Okay. Beis Shammai Emrim Hefka La'aniyim. Beis Shammai say if you make something ownerless and Hefka, but you only want the poor people to have it, but not the rich people. So the deal is Hefka. Beis Shammai, they say, well, it's valid. And if it's fruit, it's positive from Tumas and Maestros. Although you're only deciding it's only for this subsection of people, but they Beis Shammai say you can do it. Beis Hillel say no, it doesn't work. And it would be Chaim Tumas and Maestros ad sheyafke af le'ashirim k'shmita. It's got to be Hefka for everyone, just like produce of Shmita, to allow it to be potter from Tumas and Maestros. Now, Kol Haloshon shel kav. Now we're now going back to the laws of Shikha, okay? So in a situation where you've got things on the field, and they're like, each one is like a kav size, and then there's like a bundle which is much bigger than the rest, say it's 4 kav. And you forgot the big one. Beis Shammai says it's still not, it's not Shikha, you can go back and take it. Beis Hillel says yes, it is Shikha, and you have to leave it for the poor. Right? Okay, let's see. We said actually the main nafkamina between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is whether it's Torah Maestros. Okay, I mean there's also a nafkamina as to whether it's chal or not. Right? According to Beis Shammai, hefka for aniyim is chal, and a poor person can actually take it. According to Beis Hillel, is not valid. A poor person can't take it. Right? So it's not. There's more than a fundamental difference of Maestros and Potter Trumas and Maestros. It's whether does it work. Okay. The reason for Beis Shammai, that the psukim we find in Peah Daf, Le'ani v'lager, it says you should leave them. It should have written Le'ani v'lager, but the rest saying Ta'azavos, right? Leave it. That's extra. So Mazhab Alava Ta'azavos, and why we got the extra words? Yesh lecha aziva acheres kazu. There's another situation of leaving money, which is a normal hefker, where the owner is giving up his intention to take this item, and has got a din like leaving money of Peah Leket. So ma'azu, just like leaving money of Peah Leket, la'aniyim v'lo la'ashirim. So Peah Leket is clearly for the poor, not for the rich. So elsewhere, which is normal hefker, you make something ownerless from your own free will, which is not really a mitzvah of giving to the poor, but it's only valid la'aniyim v'lo la'ashirim. It's for the poor but not for the rich. So we're saying that making something hefka is like Peah, and Peah is only ownerless for the poor. So it's the same idea. Making something hefka is it's the same idea that it can be valid. It can be only for, even if it's only for the poor. Shmuel Lakish said Tamayo de Beis Hillel. The reason of the Beis Hillel that in this pasuk it talks about Shavias Tishmatena on the Tashta. It should have said Tishmatena. Ma'atam Aleva on the Tashta. Why does it say the Tashta? Extra word. Yesh lecha natisha acheres. There is another example here of money like this sort of forsaking kazoo, like that of Shmita. And Mazu, just like Shmita, Bein la'ani and Bein la'ashirim, it's for everyone. So when you make something hefker elsewhere, not in the place of Shmita, it's only Bein la'ani and Bein la'ashirim. It's got to be for the poor and for the rich. I should say that the shir today is in Nishmas, my father, of Yerushalmi Peah Daf, and Yitzchok Cohen. Okay, let's carry on. Bein la'aniyim bein la'ashim. So what we say, so also for the aniyim and shim, just like Shmita is for everyone, so also hefka is also for everyone. But if it's just for the aniyim, it doesn't work. Now we explained according to Beis Shammai, we had the extra word tazov with Peah Leket. So hefka can be just for the poor. Now how would Beis Hillel darshan that pasuk? So Mama came Beis Hillel Tamad Beis Shammai. What did Beis Hillel do with the pasuk Beis Shammai quoted? They said tazov is a mealt. Only them Peah Leket you have to leave like it's written, nothing else. And the zoo is just that. It's only Peah Leket is la'aniyim lo la'ashirim. It's for the poor, not the rich. And that which it says elsewhere is not chal bein la'aniyim bein la'ashirim. Anywhere else, hefka has to be for both. Peah, you have a special allowance that it's just for the poor, but hefka has to be for everyone. Okay. Now we go into a shlokish. So he said, according to Beis Hillel or the Tashta, which we find with Shmita, tells me that hefka has to be for the poor and for the rich, just like Shmita. Now, how do Beis Shammai darshan that pasuk? Beis Shammai tamad Beis Hillel. What do they do with that pasuk? He says Tishmatena and Tashta. The pasuk is talking here with Shmita. Milt. It's a milt, the mapik hay on the tashta. Only that, which is shmita produce, you have to leave it like that, but nothing else. So what does it come out? So we're excluding hefka there of the shmita is bein lani and bein ashirim. That's for the poor and the rich. Any other type of hefka is la'aniim avaloi la'ashirim. This is what Beis Hillel do with it. So that which you have elsewhere, the shmita has to be for everyone. But other hefka can be even just for the poor, but not for the rich. That's what Beis Shammai answer back. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, the source of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is we have a pasuk of Peah Leket. Beis Shammai have a riboy, Beis Hillel have a miut. They didn't really learn from Shmita. According to Rish Lakish, the source of both of them is pasuk of Shmita. Beis Hillel have a riboy, Beis Shammai have a miut, and therefore both of them are not learning from Peah Leket. And the Gemara brings a proof to Rish Lakish's understanding. So he's learning from Shmita, right? The others learned from Peah. So let's see. Ravavin, Lishon Masnisa Messiah. The Lashon of our Mishnah supports Rish Lakish that the source of Beis Hillel is from a pasuk of Shmita. That normal hefka has to be like the hefka of Shmita, which has to be for everyone, because it says Beis Hillel is not hefka. Ad sheyavke afla hashirim Shmita, kashmita, right? That's the lashon there. You have to make a hefka for the rich. Let's look at the lashon kashmita. It says in the Mishnah kashmita. So you see clearly that that's where Beis Hillel learned their din. Right? It's going to be hefka for everyone, just like shmita. Now, what about situations where there's no nafkamina really between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, and cases where there are nafkaminas? So let's see. Hefka livahema. You made something ownerless for animals, avalola adam, but not for people. Or lagayim, avalola Israel. Or la'ashirim, rich people, avalola aniyim, but not for poor. Just for the rich, not for the poor. Divra kol, according to everyone, according to Beis Hillel, ein hefka hefka. It's not going to work. It's not like hefka of fruit of shmita. It's not like Peah Leket. You only want to give it to the rich. Imagine that. You only want to give it to the rich. That's not going to work. La Adam. You want to make a hefka for a person, Avalada Behema, or Israel, Avalada Gaim, or La Ania, I say the poor of that town, Avalada Ania, is not another town. Tivlog Ted of Yerushalmi Peah Daf. Why? Al Dated of Yerushalmi hefka. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it helps even according to Beis Hillel. Because we learn Isam, right? It says Peah Leket. It's got to be hefka from Aniyim, like Peah. And in these situations, now you are limiting the hefkerus, but it's not just for the poor, right? What do you say? The poor people of this town, right? It's not the same as Peah Leket, and the hefka is valid even according to Beis Hillel. You hear that? Even though you're limiting, it's not just for the poor. So you're extending it a bit. So we're saying even it's not exactly like Peah, and therefore it will work, and the hefka is chal. But al dated Rish Lakish, according to Rish Lakish, ein hefka hefka. According to them, in Beis Hillel, we learn from Shmita, and if it's not hefka for everyone, all animals, all people, it's not hefka. And these situations are not hefka for everyone. You see that? So it depends if we're learning from Shmita or we're learning from Peah, right? So according to Peah, we said as long as you extended it, that would be fine. But according to Shmita, it's got to be available for all the people, all the animals, and if you don't have that, then it's not chal. Rav La said, I actually heard that they even argue in these situations. That Rav Yochanan by hefka, it's his valid hefka, and Rish Lakish, he said ain't hefka, it's not hefka. You don't have to learn their arguments from Svara. Let's work it out based on their arguments elsewhere. But he said, I actually heard that they said quite clearly whether it works or not, and that was Rabbi Yochanan said it works, and Rish Lakish says it doesn't work. Okay. Now, what about can a rich person acquire something that was made hefka to the poor? Right, according to Beis Shammai, hefka l'aniyim is hefka for the poor. Can a rich person take it? Hefka l'aniyim. If you made something hefka for the poor, v'zachu b'hen hashirin, and the rich people went and acquired it. Tiflog says machlokes Rav Meir Rav Yosi. Adated Rav Meir Kud Rav Meir. He said, "Kiven chada mafke dava. Once you make something hefka, it's left you. Yatzam Yeshusa. It's gone out of your domain. Even before anyone else gets it, it's left you. Right? Therefore, hefkera hefka. Therefore, it's proper hefka, and a rich person can take it. A person can limit others from acquiring his money while he is the owner of it. Once it leaves him, then his condition doesn't help to limit anyone else anymore. And since as soon as you make it hefker, your ownership has disappeared. Therefore, your limitations have disappeared, and therefore rich people can acquire it. Okay? So according to Meir, you made it hefker, it's not yours, then any rich person can go and take it as well. Okay? And let's see the other opinion. Adate de Rabbi Yossi, he said, Ein hefker yos b'nei balim ela b'schila. He says hefker is when someone else acquires it. And if no one has acquired it, it's still yours. Okay? Therefore, ein hefker hefker. It's not a hefker that the rich people can take it. You never lost your ownership until someone else acquires it. Therefore, your Tanai is still chal, that only the poor people can take it. So a rich person won't be able to take it. Okay, so that will depend on that. Okay? I've always had this difficult, but we're not really learning it now. But according to Rabbi Yossi, something's not hefker until someone else acquires it. Right? So how does that work on Pesach? You make your chametz hefker, but no one acquires it, so why are you not over? Huh? No, but Rabbi Yossi holds it's still yours until someone else acquires it. I'm sure they discuss it, the Rishonim. How does his view fit in with Pesach? Right? You make it hefker, but until someone acquires it, but no one else has acquired it, unless you say the Torah took it away from you, and that maybe is a type of acquisition, possibly. I'm more than welcome to listen to anyone out there who's got any answers to that question. I've always had that question. From my Nedarim days, I've had that question. And if anyone has got an answer, let me know. Okay, what were you going to say?
No, it could be that the hachrach of the case is someone else's kohen, because you could always be kohen something back yourself.
Yeah.
So Kolzman that you have the ability, there's no hachrach that you have cares with what the mashmos.
So the could you it's not hefker until someone else takes it.
Because therefore there's the chal, the evidence that you have cares was true.
But it doesn't work till someone else takes it.
Doesn't work, or there's
no it doesn't work. It's not hefker that rich people can acquire it, because your bias has not gone away until someone else is zoicher in it. You are still limited, you are still the owner. I'm sure there is discussion on this, but I'm sure if you're out there, anyone, you can help me with that. Okay, we mentioned the Machlokas Rabbi Yossi, right? If your ownership goes away as soon as you make a hefker, or only after someone else acquires it, nafka mena according to your ownership's gone away. Therefore, you can't go and acquire it from hefker just by speech, even if no one's got there first. You have to do a new Masechet, right, to acquire it new. And if you just change your mind with speech without kinyan, and someone else does a kinyan, the second one acquires it. Because you're changing your mind without kinyan is nothing. If they are fruits, they're potter from Maisa. Even if you go and acquire it, it's like Paris you get from hefker, okay? Because you acquired it from hefker. Quid Rabbi Yossi, you stayed the owner on it all this time. You can therefore go back on the hefker by Amira, as long as no one else has got there. You don't have to acquire it new. If you do go back, it is Chaim Maisa, because you're taking your own. You're not taking from hefker. It's considered yours all along. And after someone else gets it, you definitely can't go back on it. So let's see, what about cases where you make something hefker for a period of time? Ad Kadun. So we've learned you can't go back from hefker, as soon as you make a hefker, and Rabbi Yossi, until if someone else has acquired it, you can't go back. Let's say you made a hefker for 7 years, or a year. Now they definitely said, if you make a hefker with no time, I mean, Misfara, who did if you hefker it for a long time? What about you said for a day? It's hefker for a day, or for a week. Do we say, look, you've limited it to a small period of time, you've shown you don't really want to make a hefker, you've left yourself the right to go back on it, even after someone else has acquired it, according to Rabbi Yossi, or before anyone else acquired it, according to Meir. So can you still go back on it because you only wanted it for a period of time? We learn the subject from the following brisa. Hifker sadeu, you made your field hefker without giving a date or time. Shnayim or shlosha yomim chayzer boy. So for the next 2 or 3 days, you can go back on it. Takanas chachamim, right? Why? Because people were cheats. They'll say, I'm making a hefker so that they don't have to separate maestras, and then they'd go and acquire it straight away. They had no intention to make a hefker. They just want to go back and take it again. So to stop that, the Chacham said, look, even if you put in your heart, you make a hefka, it's not hefka for 3 days, and it's Chaim Maisa, and therefore people aren't going to cheat anymore. It won't be effective to cheat. And since it's not hefka, the mafka can go back within this time and take it from anyone else who's acquired it, even Kudra Meir, Kudra B'yosi. Now, they only said this for 3 days. After 3 days, there's no chashash of cheating anymore. The person's not going to wait more than 3 days till he goes back and takes it. And if he didn't go back and take it until after a few days, then obviously he made a hefka with a proper heart. But now he's regretting it. So basically, after 3 days, the hefka is chal. You can't go back after someone else got hold of it, Kudra B'yosi, and Kudra Meir, even if no one got hold of it. And if no one got it, and then you yourself come and acquire it, it's potter from Maisa according to everyone. So the Machlokes Hamaroim now, that which we said after 3 days, you can't go back. So is that straightforward? So tell you Rav Shimon the Yama, Rav Shimon from the Yama, which is from the sea or wherever, some other place, even after 3 days, right, if you're a short period of time after your hefker, this small period of time. So as long as it's even after 3, actually it wasn't correct yesterday, even after 3 days after you've made a hefka, it should be chayzaboy. You can go back, even if someone else has got hold of it. He says, not takanas chachamim, it's me'ikadin. You want to come and change your mind a short while after hefka, you obviously intended to keep it for yourself, and you kept the rights to go back on it. Okay? So he's saying even after 3 days, a short period of time. Okay? A short period of time, you can go back on it. Okay? Amalei. And Rav Zira said back to him, you think you can go back after 3 days, then hila achar shloisha, hila achar kama. There's no difference after 3 days, this short period of time, or after many days. You should still be able to go back according to your logic. And that can't be, because according to Meir and according to B'yosi, you can't go back after a long period of time, right? From the hefker, someone else has already taken it. You can't go back then. You have to say that straight after 3 days, there's no chashash of cheating anymore. You can't go back. So that's why Rav Zira tied us back. Otherwise, where do you draw the line? Right? 3 days, maybe longer, maybe go longer, but that can't be. So there we are. Now the Gemara brings a raya, Rav Zira, that is what? It's just 3 days from a brisa. The brisa continuation. Lishan Masnisa, the lashon of the brisa. He says, Messiah Rav Zira is a supporter of Zira. That if your mafka is without a time, after 3 days you can't go back. No difference whether you want to change your mind a short while after or a long time after. After 3 days you can't go back. Now, when do we say within 3 days you can go back? We didn't give a time or date or anything. If you said my field is hefka for Yom Echad 1 day, Shabbos Achas 1 week, Chodesh Echad 1 month, Shana Achas, Shavua Achas 1 Echad 1 period of a year or 7 years. Im Ad Shalai Zacha Bein Hu Bein Acher. If he's not acquired it or anyone else has not yet acquired it, Yachal Afzabai, then he can go back on the hefka. If someone else has acquired it, Bein Hu Bein Acher Eli Yachal Afzabai, then no one can go back on it, even within 3 days of hefka, according to this. Now, if you said it's hefka for 1 day, we're saying now if someone else has acquired it, that's it. You can't go back on it, right? Because there's no chashash of cheating here. I mean, if you want to be mafkir in order to acquire it again, why limit the time of hefka, right? Therefore, the Chacham didn't have to make a takana that hefka is not chal within 3 days. They left it the main din, the hefka is chal. You can basically go back as long as no one else has acquired it. But after someone else has acquired it, that's it. It's too late. You can't go back on that. Now, what do we see here? This brisa seems to support the view of Rav Zira. That it says, if you're mafkir it for a period of time, right, a long time, you can't go back after someone else has acquired it. The whole argument makes no difference, actually, whether after a long time, after a short time, the din is the same. We don't say, when you want to change your mind a short while, that shows you left it for yourself from the beginning to go back on it. We don't say that. And the Sefer actually clearly says, if you're mafkir it for 1 day, you hear that? 1 day, and you want to go back, once someone else has taken it, you can't. You hear that? Once someone else has taken it, even after 1 day, you can't go back. Even on the day that you made it a hefka. despite the fact that it's only a short time after you made a hefka. It can be half an hour later. Once someone's taken it, it's too late. That's what you see in this brisa. So now, what do we see? Now, we're going through the chidushim that we learned from the sefer of this brisa. So the first chidush is that we got the suffix which we had. If you make something hefka for a short period of time, can you go back after someone else acquired it? Well, Hadar Amra, this tells me, Huzma Meruba, Huzma Mu'at, hefka for a limited time. There's no difference if you did it for a long period of time or a short period of time. You can't go back after someone else has acquired it. That's what we see in the Sefer of the Brisa. If you made a hefka even for one day, you can't go back after someone else has acquired it. Okay? Another chiddush we see here, Hadar Amra, it also tells me Lo chashu ala Rava, that we weren't worried about cheating or when you make a hefka for a limited time. They didn't say, oh, the hefka wouldn't be chal, there'll be chiyuv ma'asros until 3 days go by. We don't worry about that. We said in the Sefer, we said, if you're a hefka for a period of time, the hefka's chal, you can't go back after anyone else has acquired it, or even within 3 days. So we weren't worried about people cheating, making things hefka for a period of time. And Hadar Amra, another thing we learned from this brisa, Sha'ada mafke v'chayze v'zaycha. You can make your fruit hefka and go and acquire them, and they're potter from Maisa. He says, even Rabbi Yossi, who holds you can be going back on hefka, be chayze on hefka, if you want to take it not as a retaking of chazara from hefka. You want to make a kinyan to acquire it new. You hear that? You want to make a kinyan to acquire it new, then it's potter from Maisa, and it works. And when you're doing this, you're not worse than someone else who acquires it from hefka and is potter from Maisa. You hear that? So he's saying if you want, you can choose to acquire this fruit again, and it's potter from Maisa, and that's why the Sefer says that after someone else, after he acquires it, he can't. What does it say? After he acquires it himself, he can't go back. So basically, he can decide to acquire it afresh. That's what's happening over here. Okay, let's see what he says here. There's no real takanas chachamim. The hefka's chal, but this is like Rabbi Yossi, who holds everything of hefka. If no one else has taken it, it's not yet left you. Okay, the owner can go back on it. According to Meah, if there's no takanas chachamim, the hefka shouldn't be chal within 3 days. It left you completely, and therefore you can't go back on it. Okay, that's how Shakish. Okay, so where are we going now? So Hadar Amra Shana Mafke v'chayze v'zaycha. Okay, so you can even Rabbi Yossi who holds you can go back on hefka. If you're going to take it not as going back from hefka, it seems you're making a new kinyan, then it does work. Okay, and you're not worse than anyone else. And Hadar Pashta, and also the last chiddush over here, what we got? She'il Ted Rav Zira. The Brisa answers the question of Zira, as he said. Rav Zira Amar, he said, "Who's my meruba? Who's my mu'at?" He says, "There's no difference. You want to change your mind a long time after hefka. You want to change your mind a short time after hefka. No difference. You can't change your mind after someone else has acquired it." And that's why we wanted to prove a bit like what he said. You see from the Brisa a bit like he said. So they've got a summary over here. Let's go through the summary. So Rameh and Rabbi Yossi argue, if someone makes something hefka, can you go back before anyone else acquired it? And you'll be chayav ma'isa, according to Rabbi Yossi, or not, according to Rameh. Rabbi Yossi agrees, although you can acquire it, you can go back. If you clearly had intention, you're not going back. You're making a kinyan to acquire it new, yeah? Then you acquire it from hefka, and it's potter from Masechet. After someone else acquired it, according to everyone, you can't go back from the hefka. Now this is after 3 days of hefka. Within the 3 days, according to everyone, the hefka is not chal. You can change your mind, even if someone else has acquired it, and that is takanas chachamim because of the cheats. Okay. Now Rishima, Diyama, and Reb Zira, they argue if you want to change your mind a short while after hefka, and after 3 days. Is that proof that you intended to leave it yourself the rights to go back? And the Gemara actually concludes from the Brisa, like Reb Zira, there's no proof and you can go back on it. Okay. And also, if you limited clearly the hefka for a period of time, the hefka is chal even within 3 days. There's no chashash of cheats there. and the Chachamim never said to delay the Chalos Hefka. And the Gemara's got a question: if you limit your Hefka for a short period, do you want to leave yourself the right to change your mind? You can go back to everyone, and even if someone else has acquired it or not. And the Gemara concludes that Hefka for a small period of time is not different from Hefka Stam as far as the rights are to change your mind on it. Okay. Right, this is the last part of the Mishnah now. So we said you have different parts of sizes, right? So you've got little small bundles of a kav, and then you've got a piece of 4 kav. So you got bundles of the field which are the size of a kav, and one is 4 kav. And you forgot the big one, but Yerushalmi says it's not shikha, but it still says it is shikha. The mana kayomin, what are we talking about here? Well, what Yerushalmi is saying, the big one is not shikha. You're going to tell me it's noticeable, it stands out, it's so big, and we learned, if you forget something which stands out, we're going to see this later on, it's not shikha. Why not? Because you'll remember it, okay? So it's so massive, you're not going to forget it. But if that's the case, then let 2 kav, it needs to be 2 kav in size for that din. If it's double the size from the rest, that's something unique. That's something you're not going to forget. Why do Yerushalmi need it to be 4 kav, which is 4 times the rest? Why can't it be 2 kav? And if they hold Mishum Shura, it's not shikha because it's like a din of a row, which you haven't yet forgotten this row, and as if it's divided into a row of 4 omrim, 4 bundles, which are a kav each. Now the din is, if you forget a row of various omorim, as we'll see later on, then daya shloisha, then you only need 3 kav, right? A row of 3 kav, we say you've not forgotten it, because you wouldn't forget that row. So if that's the case, why do we need this big piece to be 4 kav? It can either be double the size of the others, or if we imagine it's a row in its own right, well, it can be 3, and we imagine it's split into 3. So why can we do that? Why do Yerushalmi only pater when it's 4? So when Talmud said this explanation of Yochanan Rav Shimon Lakish, he said Yerushalmi pater from shikha kol shu yachal l'chol kai v'lasos shura. Anything you can divide up and make it into a row, right? Now a shura of 4 omerim, according to Beis Shammai. So the reason of Beis Shammai is we imagine this big piece as if it's divided up, and it's a row of smaller pieces. And why do they need it to be 4 times the size? Yeah, there's a knock on the door there. I don't know what it is, who it is. Why does it need to be 4 times the size? Right? The reason is, according to their shitta in that Mishnah, because they hold that you're going to have a row of 4 omerim. To make a row, to have a Torah of shikha, they say it's got to be 4. Right? Not 3, they say it's got to be 4. So that's why we take this big piece and imagine it's 4 little ones. Well, that's the row, and that's the reason why it's not shikha. Okay, 1 second. The Rambam actually passes like Beis Hillel, that even if it's 4, it's 4 times the others, it becomes shikha. But he says if it's more than 4, then it's not shikha. But he holds if it's 4, it is shikha. That's how the Rambam passes. Maybe the Rambam had a different girsa. If it's so big, it's something unique and you're not going to forget it. Maybe it's not shikha. When it's 4 times as much, maybe according to Beis Shammai, you imagine it's divided. It's a row of 4. Beis Hillel maybe don't hold that you imagine it's divided. When it's more than 4, then Beis Hillel agree it's not shikha because it's something unique and you're not going to forget about it. Okay. So where are we now? So what we said, Beis Shammai say it's got to be a size of 4 because you can divide it into, imagine it's virtually 4, right? 4 different ones, and you've got a row of 4. Now, where are we? Rav Yonah, boy. Is that where we are? Yeah. Rav Yonah, boy. Rav Yonah asked. Now, boy means he wanted to say. He's not asking. It should be Vahu Shiura. This share of 1 to 4 is the share with big omorim as well, big bundles. That Kol Omrei Asada shall kav. If each of them are 1 kav, the Echad shall Abbas kav and Shachar. One is 4 kav and you forgot it. It's not shikha according to Beis Shammai, as we said. And Kol Omrei Asada shall Shnei kavin. If all of them are 2 kav, the Echad shall Shmoinas kavin, and one is 8, and you forgot it, is not shikha according to Beis Shammai. So just like when they are the size of the Mishnah, the big one has to be 4 times as much. So you see it's divided, it's a row of 4. So also when the other ones are more than the Shiurim of the Mishnah, it's got to be a same comparison, right, of 1 to 4. So if the other pieces are 2, then it has to be 8. Okay. Right. What have we got here? Yeah, okay. So you've got a bundle which is next to a wall, or a godish, or to a massive mound, a big stack of bundles, or the baka, or the bundle is next to cattle, or kalim, or to various plows and things, or shchachai, and you forgot it. So you've left it next to something, and then you forgot it. But you left it next to something specific. The Shammai says it's not shikha. Why? You'll remember because you know you left it next to something specific that will remind you. So that's not considered forgotten. They say it is shikha. They hold leaving it next to something specific doesn't promise you that you will remember it. So they say no, it is shikha. So that's the argument. If you leave it next to something specific. Now, one of the things we mentioned on this list is animals, right? Animals are not necessarily going to stay there, right? So we'll see about that. So first of all, the Kashi Ada Beis Shammai. Now, the question on the words of Beis Shammai say yes, you leave it next to these things, it's not shikha. So the Kashi Ada Beis Shammai, the question on Beis Shammai, the Baka Kalim, it should be with animals and vessels which are Dovid Shenem Asuyim, which is something which might not be specific. We'll see. It not be this paragraph here. There's different size here. Let's see first. The in and Amrin. Now they said if you forget the Omer next to them, it's not shikha. But if you leave something, these things are not really that amazing. They're not that important. The animals, the kalim, are they something unique that you're going to remember about? They should have said it's shikha. Because they're not really very specific things. But Kasha the Beis Hillel, and even on the Beis Hillel is hard. It says Begafa v'Gadish, Dova Masuya. Okay, maybe you put it next to a wall. Yes, I understand. That's a specific thing. But in and even though they said if you forget it, leave it there, it's shikha. I'm afraid it doesn't help you. But you've left it next to a wall. That's something they should have said is not shikha. So the question on Beis Shammai, you say an animal is a davar masuyim, and we don't agree. And Beis Hillel say it's not shikha. Sorry, Beis Hillel say it is shikha, but you left it next to a wall. Why should they say that? Okay. So the very good question. We have no answer. The one I was going to say is later on, Beis Hillel holds the fact that you've left the Omer is not fixed, but you've left it next to something specific. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to remember it. As far as a logical thing, maybe you will remember it, but whatever. Okay, so what have we got here now? Now the Mishnah is going to tell us, right, okay, if you forget to cut from an olive tree, a well-known olive tree, and that produce, whatever, it's not shikha. Why? Because you're going to remember it. We'll give examples of that. Let's see if we read from our Mishnah. Where are we going here? Bim Kaimai, is that where we are?
Yep.
This olive tree, which is so well known, Bim Kaimai, in its place. So, for example, it's next to the olive press or next to a gap in the wall. It's such a famous olive tree. Now, Masnisa, our Mishnah is like the view of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai say, when you forget something next to something specific, like next to a wall, Eina shikha. It's not shikha. So therefore the Mishnah says later on, if you forgot to cut the olives from this olive tree next to the press or next to the gap, that's not shikha. Because again, it's double mafusam, right? It's something well known. According to Beis Hillel, they said if you forget the Omer, it's become shikha. So also this olive tree would become shikha. Now, Rebbe just seems to be, this is a Mishnah later on, and it seems to be like Beis Shammai. Now, usually the halacha is not like Beis Shammai. Usually the halacha is like Beis Hillel. And this is like a stam Mishnah, Mishnah Daf Nun Ches. You don't cut from the olive tree, and it's next to the press, and it's not shikha. That seems to be like Beis Shammai. So our Rabbi Yossi comes along. He says, Divrei HaKol. He says, you know what? Everyone knows of it. Even Beis Hillel agree, because Talmud, over there, Davar Mechuba, something connected to the ground, like the olive tree, but Sad Davar Mechuba, next to something connected to the ground, either the wall or the olive press. So therefore, the tree is considered something specific. The owner is not going to remember, he's not going to forget. It's next to it, the press is next to it. They're both connected to the ground, they're both fixed in their place. It's not considered forgotten, therefore it's not shikha. But but in our Mishnah, is davar talosh, is your bundle, which is movable, which can be moved from place to place, but sad davar mechuba, next to the wall. And that's where Beis Hillel argue on Beis Shammai. They say, although the bundle is next to something specific which is going to be stationary, it's not itself considered something which is specific. It's not davar musuyam because it's not fixed in its place. So you hear the difference, Rabbi say, yeah? If it's two things fixed to the ground next to each other, that's one thing. But here it's a bundle next to a wall. Now we're done. Okay, huh? Our Mishnah's view, in our Mishnah we learned Machlokes B'Sham Beis Hillel. And Omer you forgot next to something, like next to the wall, next to the animals, next to the machinery. Now the following Mishnah tells us Beis Shammai Beis Hillel agree. If you held on to the Omer, let's say you hold on to the bundle, and your intention is to take it to town. And yet, what happens? You left it in the field for a period of time and you forgot it. But your intention is to take it to town, and then somehow it got dropped and then got put down. It's not shikha. Now the Gemara now brings a brisa, whereas Machlokes Tanoim, in what situations are Machlokes B'Sham Beis Hillel? Let's see. Rav Eloi says, Sha'alti es Rabbi Yeshua. I asked Rabbi Yeshua, Be'edu Amrin Chalukim Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Where are they arguing? Is it you forgot it next to something like a tree or next to a fence? Or is it something you held on to take to town and you left it in the fields for a period of time and you forgot it? Where do they argue? Amali, he said to me, Batayra Azois, I make an oath. This is the case of their argument. Hasamoch Lagafa Velagadish. So either the bundle's next to the wall, the mound, Bakar, the Caleb, the animals, the vessels, the Shacha, you forgot it. Beis Shammai say, Eino Shikha, that's not Shikha. Beis Hillel Amrim, Shikha, Beis Hillel say, it is Shikha. So that's one argument, when you left something next to the wall, whatever it is. Okay, Shabasi Eisa Rav Elazar, when I came to Rav Elazar Amal, he said, Loi Nachluku, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. No, they didn't argue. Allah Aimesh, Samach Lagafa Lagadish, on the Aimesh next to the wall, or the Bakar, the Caleb, next to the animal, next to the vessels, the Shachai. There's no argument there. It's definitely Shikha. Jehu Shikha, no argument. Beis Shammai agree, something movable, hasn't got a fixed place, like this bundle. Yes, it can be next to the wall. I'm afraid that's not good enough, and it is Shikha. So where is the argument then? It's this other case. So where do Beis Shammai Beis Hillel argue? You took the Omer, you held on to it to take it into the town, and after that, for a period of time you put it next to the wall, next to the mound, next to the animals, you put it down for a minute, and you forgot it. And that's where the argument is. Beis Shammai say it's not shikha because you held on to it. Beis Hillel say it is shikha. So this is what Rabbi Elazar is telling you. You hear that? So Rabbi Elazar is saying the whole argument is where you picked up something to take to town and you left it in the field. And there's a whole argument. So let's see. Beis Shammai say it is shikha. You acquired it. Beis Hillel say it is shikha. Because Shabasi says that right when I said these words, Lifnei Rabbi Elazar and Azariah, Amali, he says, I make an oath to you. You know what? Habris. I make an oath by the Torah. Indeed, that's what was said to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. So the words of Rabbi Elazar are right. That their argument was not about whether it's left next to a tree or anything like that. It's where it was the intention to take it into town and you ended up leaving it in the field. Okay. Now the Gemara brings a Mishnah in Ksuvas, which learns similar to our Mishnah and the Mishnah before it, Machlokes B'Sham Beis Hillel, and where Beis Shammai are more lenient, Beis Hillel are more strict. And we look at a woman whose ability to sell Nirsei Meluk, right, the things that she's got, that she's brought into the marriage, and the Gemara is going to bring the different cases, right, let's see. So Taman Taninan, we've learned, Ha'isha Shanaflu La Nechasim, if she received things as an inheritance, Ad Shalaitis Aris, before she got engaged. And then she got engaged. Moedim Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, she Mocheres when they sell it. Beis Shammai agree, she's allowed to sell it or give it as a gift. The Chaim and the Kinyan as Chaim is valid. She acquired it at the time when it was only hers. Before she was engaged, the husband had no right to it. And now she's only Arusa. She's not Nesua yet. He's got no right to it with this fruit. Therefore, there's no limitations on her rights to sell it, despite the fact that she will prevent him having his chus in the future to have the fruit when he marries her. You hear that? So she can sell it now while she's engaged on stuff which she received before she got engaged. If she only received it after she got engaged, but before Nisuin, Beis Shammai Omrim Tivka, Beis Shammai says she can sell it. Beis Hillel Omrim Lo Tivka, Beis Hillel you can't sell it. Reb Pinchas, now Beis Shammai are lenient, allowing her to sell. Beis Hillel are machmir. So Reb Pinchas Ba'ikam Rabbi Yossi asked, V'lama lo tinin, why do we not learn it in the list of idiots, the arguments between Mikule Beis Shammai and Mechore Beis Hillel? There's the argument between the two, one is more lenient, one is more strict. Why not learn it there? Amalei, so he answered, Le'asina Masnis. Now remember, for her to sell it, it's a leniency for her, but it's a severity for the husband, right? So he says, Le'asina Misnisa. We didn't want to mention in idiots things, it's more severe on two sides and lenient from two sides. It's like according to Beis Hillel, where it's a chumrah on all sides, and Beis Shammai say it's a kula on all sides. But here, each one is a chaymer mitzad echad. It's a severity on one person, but kal mitzad echad, and it's more leniency on one side. According to Beis Shammai, it's a leniency for her. She's allowed to sell. It's a chumrah for the husband. He can't stop her selling. He can't prevent his rights in this nechosim for when he marries her. By the time he marries her, I'm afraid it's all gone. But according to Beis Hillel, it's a chumrah for her. She can't sell it. On the other hand, it's a leniency for him that he can stop her selling and prevent him losing his rights when he marries her. Okay? I think we will stop here. Is that a bit more? 1 second. A few lines to the Mishnah. Okay, go on. Well, no, we'll stop here. Sorry. Nice try.